Welcome to the Intentional Health for Women podcast. I'm your host, Garrett GQ Query. This podcast is dedicated to developing intentional health for women. Former 400-pound fat man turned health and fitness professional, specializing in women's health. In this podcast, you will find over a decade of experience in the health and fitness industry, serving women to become their most intentional self through strength training, nutrition, and lifestyle practices. Each week, we will dive into a variety of different topics, ranging from interviews with women leading the way in the health and fitness industry, client case studies throughout the years, myth busting, social media trends, female hormones, gut health, and so much more. We are not normal. We are intentional. Welcome to another episode of the Intentional Health for Women podcast. I'm your host, Garrett GQ Query, and today I am joined by my guest, Carly. Carly, welcome.
Hi, Garrett. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Really brief. I didn't send you this question, but it's, just give us a general idea. What was small snippet, like what was childhood like for you? Like, were you an athlete? Did you grow up in a home that, had good relationship with food? What did that look like?
Oh yeah. So growing up, I was raised by two amazing parents that are still together today, 30 years married. We love that. They both worked out. They owned a gym. So growing up, I played all the sports. My dad was a football coach for 30 years. He followed me to every school of mine to be the high school football coach, the middle school football coach. Yeah. I did summer strength and conditioning coach with the football players during my summer breaks instead of just doing normal kid things. So yeah, I was always active, playing sports, moving my body, working out. And then as far as food goes, yeah, I had a good relationship with food. I didn't really pay attention to it as much as I do now. Food has changed quite a bit since I've been, a teenager. But for the most part, food was always there and a good relationship with. So, but yeah, growing up,
so
it was
no
great.
major, didn't cope with food, things along these lines.
No, that did not start happening until later in my life.
Yeah. Grew up, but grew up strong, right? That's really different than the way a lot of women grow up in our society and culture today. Yeah. I had an onboarding call with a client yesterday. And, one of the things that she put in her intake was talking about how she grew up the skinny kid. And that became very much so her identity is being that skinny kid. And as she's grown as an adult and becoming a mom and all of these things, she's slipped away from that, from poor nutritional habits and other things, and done the crash diet and got back to quote unquote that identity, but realized hey, this isn't really a sustainable place for me to be. It's not healthy. So that's huge. Let's start. I'm going to go in a little bit of a different order than maybe I would have sent it off to you. Let's start rewind. As I was going through 2018, I'm sitting across from you. What does that version of you look like?
2018 Carly was young. 2018 Carly was pregnant and just had a baby. So yeah, I was young. I was 22 when I had my first baby.
Okay.
And so I was just kind of trying to find my way and just navigate through motherhood. I had competed in bodybuilding before that. So at this time now, my body looked totally different. I was dealing with postpartum. I had a C-section, unplanned. I was kind of a hot mess actually too, because I was dealing with my autoimmune disease. I have Hashimoto's. So I was dealing with that, which was not fun, along with having a baby and trying to be a good wife and a good mom and a good woman of faith, all the things. So yeah, I was just kind of all over the place. I didn't really know who I was yet either.
College grad at that point?
I didn't go to college.
Okay.
No, yeah. I went to GCU for half a semester, but I just didn't really know what I wanted to go to school for at the time. Business, but for what? I just didn't know. And I didn't want to waste any more time or money, so I just stepped away from that.
Yeah, absolutely. I can resonate with that. I did 1 year at NDSU back home, and it just wasn't. Traditional school isn't my jam.
Yeah, I agree. Even high school, I was like, get me out of here. Unless we're playing sports or eating lunch, I'm good. Just let me pass and move on.
So true. So you had competed before. When did you start competing? Like, obviously it makes a lot of sense hearing your background, right?
Yeah.
Like, grew up with a football coach for a dad, strength and conditioning with the boys.
Yeah.
Like, it makes sense that would kind of evolve there. Circling back, did you play so strength and conditioning, did you play sports in high school?
I did. I played volleyball all 4 years. I was on the varsity team my sophomore year, even freshman year a little bit. I was really good at volleyball. I played libero. I was going to go play college volleyball until I tore my ACL senior year. Yeah. And I played basketball and I ran track. So those are my 3 sports. I played golf here and there, but I couldn't do that and play volleyball at the same time. So I chose volleyball.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then senior year, after I tore my ACL and I graduated high school, I went and started working at One Stop Nutrition, where I kind of fell in love more with nutrition in general and supplements and just working out in general. And I had people approach me and say, have you ever thought about competing, bodybuilding? And I knew what that was because my parents went to the Arnold Classic back in the day and they met Arnold and Ronnie and Dexter Jackson, have pictures of them and stuff. So it's super cool. And I knew that what it was. I'm like, never thought about it, but like, I need a goal. I need a new goal. So that's when I started competing, was about 2015. I graduated in 2013.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
So 20 years old.
Yeah. Yep.
What, 2018, just had a kid. Is that first kid?
First and one and done. Yes.
One and done. Okay, cool. First kid. What did like your background look like as far as like walking into that pregnancy? Did you lift throughout? Did you fall off?
Yeah, this is crazy. If I got pregnant again, I would 100% work out because I did not really step foot in the gym at all. Prior again to finding out I was pregnant, I was dealing with my Hashimoto's and I was a hot mess. I wasn't wanting to work out. I was inflamed. I was in pain. Like I had anxiety so bad I couldn't even step foot in the gym. Something I loved the most. The enemy was making so distorted and twisted that I couldn't even step in the gym and work out. So no, I did not work out at all while I was pregnant. Maybe a couple walks here and there. Nutrition wise, I don't even remember what I ate. I probably ate whatever I wanted because that's what a lot of people think you should do or can get away with when you're pregnant, right? But yeah, no, I didn't work out at all.
Talk to us a little bit about, for maybe a guest who doesn't know what Hashi's is, what are you dealing with? What are you walking through with that? Because how long, when did you develop Hashi's?
So quick backstory. I had mono in 9th grade. That's kind of when things started to go south because that's autoimmune too. And that sticks with you. Epstein-Barr virus, EBV, sticks with you forever. Then I developed allergies junior year. So I'm like, okay, like that's also autoimmune. Like what's going on here? Then it wasn't until after my first show that I getting super lean, you know how it goes, especially for women, that I was like, man, something's not right. Like my gut, I had leaky gut. I had candida. And then I developed Hashimoto's, and I deal with, everybody's different. Their symptoms are all a little bit different. But for me, I deal with anxiety, like really bad anxiety. And going back to growing up, I had no trauma in my life. I had no reason to have any other form of anxiety, but it all stems from my gut for me. And so for me, that's what I deal with. And then high TSH levels, and then, muscle inflammation and just aches and pains sometimes. It can be hard to have one body that can train so hard and be so you can be so in tune with your body one time, one season of your life. And then the next, you're not in the same body, but you are, but it's in pain and you can't train the way you train or even think the way you think. So yeah, Hashimoto's and autoimmune diseases in general, it's hard too, because you looking at me wouldn't be able to tell that I have an autoimmune disease because I think I look fine from the outside, but the inside is what a lot of us deal with.
So I dealt with undiagnosed hypothyroidism for 8 years.
Okay. So you resonate. We know. Yeah. And no one gets you sometimes. You feel so alone, like really alone.
Yeah. It was a journey, that's for sure.
Do you feel better now?
Yeah, I work with a, optimization clinic and was able to get treatment. So I am on medication and that's helped a lot. And there's some things that I'm going to be competing in November of this year.
Amazing.
One and done. It'll be like 16 years in the making. I was 400 pounds when I was 19. So this will be quite the journey there to the stage. Awesome. There's some background I might move to I'm currently utilizing like synthetic treatment. Might move to NDT if you're familiar. And NDT is natural desiccated thyroid, so it is a medication, but it's coming from pig thyroid. I'm fortunate as I don't deal with, so mine isn't autoimmune as far as like it's not Hashi's related. So typically that is a potential treatment option that we can look at. Outside of that, I spoke with my coach and we're going to try to come off completely. But I'll never go back to feeling the way I felt like before. Like I'll never, ever go back. If it's not better, like, and we can't manage without, I'll go back, but most likely I'll try to move over to NDT after being done competing. What, you know, you brought it up, like different symptoms. So a lot of anxiety. Gut based.
Yes. I can feel it in my gut.
What did that, for those out there, like, what did that look like for you? Like gut based, like symptomology, like, did you
can get pretty gnarly.
We can get pretty gnarly, but I think it's valuable to the audience. Cause there's some people, like you said, feel so alone and and sometimes, like, you know, that's what's so great about creating content and stuff like that is like, for some people, depending on where they are, like they may have never, because of their tendencies and what they're consuming and the way the algorithm works, they may never see this, but all of a sudden they hear one clip and they have like one suspicion and it might be like, oh, wait a minute, that's me. So, I mean, maybe like the diet, maybe focus on like the anxiety piece first is like, was that like kind of the first thing that you noticed?
So when my husband and I met, I moved to California and that was a huge transition in my life for me. And that too was when things really started to flare up because I was like worked up. Like there was like, that was a lot of stress. And that's when I think things really started to kick into gear. And the anxiety for me was so debilitating that I couldn't even go into grocery stores. I had brain fog, such bad brain fog where I couldn't even think. And it just, I wasn't me. My mom finally kind of like understood a little bit because you can't see really anxiety, right? Like I feel it, but I can't explain it to you, you know? So that's what the hard part, even with family is. And then some family members like, oh, like, well, you're crazy or go take some meds. No, like I don't need that. I know what I need to do. Heal naturally, heal from the gut. Everything else will fall into place. Again, easier said than done. But again, with the anxiety, it's just more, I felt brain fog. After I would eat certain foods. So I really changed my diet. I don't eat gluten. I don't eat dairy. I got a full food panel done. I don't eat salmon, like orange foods. I can't do carrots. I don't do soy. So like as much foods as I can't eat, I actually eat a lot of food. I eat a lot of whole real foods. So that changed how I started to feel a lot. And then I started to supplement with a natural thyroid complex, which has like selenium in it and stuff and zinc to help keep my thyroid healthy. And that's what I've been doing. I refuse to take any form of any other medication. I went to an endocrinologist. They immediately wanted me on some form of medication to just slap a Band-Aid on the symptom, but not figure out what the root cause was. And I wasn't going to do it. Like I was going to figure out how to heal the right way. So that's kind of where I'm at with anxiety.
Something I want to point out to that is like, so everyone's journey is different. I deal with hypothyroidism. I dealt with for 8 years. I have an incredible coach that I've spent 2 years in one-to-one mentorship with. You know, in my opinion, one of the industry leading coaches in this functional health space. And we did a lot of work, a lot of gut protocols, a lot of like thyroid support complexes, a lot of work. And really, really tried to go about things like you've done. And I have a unique perspective from, I've read like 1,500 lab panels in the last year. And sometimes, because like the lifestyle has to match, right? Like you have to have, even if you make the choice like I've made as far as medication, you have to meet the medication halfway. It's not a red pill. It's not going to fix your problems. And we did all of those things. we managed the lifestyle, we managed the nutrition, we implemented appropriate supportive, vitamin, nutrients, and mineral supplementation to support optimal thyroid function.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't work for me.
Yeah, everybody's different.
And sometimes you can avoid it as much as you want, but there's some things like, if there's anything that I could convince someone of, like, medication, because I'm the same way. Like, I really don't want to be on medication. If I can talk someone into thyroid medication and knowing what I went through, like, it can change your life. Absolutely. It can make it completely different. Yeah. But lifestyle has to match up with it, like 100%.
I agree. Yeah, absolutely.
You then moved on. So 2018, I saw some like transformations over the course of 5 years, right? I shouldn't say 2018. I don't think it was 2018. Oh yeah, it was 2018. Yeah. Over the course of 5 years, dramatic change. So you get back into bodybuilding. Mm-hmm. When's your next show?
You know what? I just did a show 2 years ago in 2023. Mm-hmm. And
I mean, when is like from 2018? Like, what is that timeline? When is your next show? When do you kind of start to piece the pieces together?
So I didn't compete again until 2023.
Okay.
Between 2018 and 2023. Mm-hmm. So in between that time, I was focusing on healing as much as I could. Yep. I was just trying to find my groove again after having a baby, having a C-section. I was not prepared for that surgery nor recovery. Yeah. And I tore my ACL. So I had an ACL surgery. I already knew, but I was also younger. I was a teenager then too, right? I'm entering my 20s when I have a baby. But still, so in between time, I'm freshly married with the baby. I'm just finding my groove again in the gym, working out at my apartment gym with my baby in her stroller, taking her there every day. She had a little mini dumbbell. Like, she knows what mom and dad do. Going for walks, kind of food wise, still kind of figuring out what's working, what's not. Wasn't as consistent or disciplined as I am now. And then it wasn't until my husband and I started working at a gym, and a bodybuilding style gym called The Gym. And bodybuilding was everywhere again. Everyone was competing around me. People knew that I'd competed before. They see me training. Hey, you should compete again. You should compete again. My husband had just turned pro. He's a classic physique pro. And I was getting the itch again. I was like, and the thing is, I was feeling so good mentally, physically with my Hashis. I'm like, I can do this. Like, I'm good. And so I did it. And then about a year, I'd say like 6 months to a year later, I started to feel like crap again.
Walk us through really quick that time frame. You're around bodybuilding. You've started to navigate your Hashis and feel better, right? Like a lot better. You've cut out gluten. You've cut out dairy. You kind of ran some food testing. You have some understanding of better understanding of like triggers and what to avoid.
Yeah.
I guess the biggest thing I want to say is like, what was the mental side of those things? Like, while you're walking through those things over that like 5-year course into stage, like, what would you say is the pieces of the puzzle that like made you feel so good?
That's a good question. I mean, I know that our bodies are meant to heal. So mentally, I had to just trust my body too, and rely on God for his support too, and just know that he is going to heal me too. But I had to do the work, and I knew what consistency, could do. And I knew what discipline could do, but you have to be consistent discipline within those things to be able to heal. So it took a lot of mental work to say no to certain foods sometimes, because I wanted to enjoy things with people and go have pizza and ice cream. Trust me, I used to eat all the things. I was a different person in 2013, 14, and even 15, like totally different person 100%. When it came to food, I would just deal with it. I would eat it and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to have, bad bowel movement later, but I don't really care. Like at the time, just deal with it. And then eventually the mental part was like, no, if you want to feel better, if you want to feel like you again and better than ever, you have to stay disciplined. You have to stay consistent with X, Y, and Z. You're never going to heal. It's going to get worse. So that's kind of where I was at in terms of the mental part.
Yeah. It's kind of really what I was like, I guess, getting at. And I'm glad that you said it, is like saying no.
It's okay to say no.
Yeah.
It is.
And especially for if you've, circling back to, like you said, moving to California, I see this all the time, is women especially, like you will go through these events. And for you, it was, you grew up an athlete, you strength trained really hard with the boys.
With the boys.
Right. And that's great.
Yeah.
And you're young and you can handle a lot. But the reality is strength training is a stress.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we have to recover and we have to eat to support that level of output. Right. So realistically, over the course of your life, even though from the outside looking in, a lot of your decisions and choices were quote unquote healthy.
Yeah.
And then you pile on the food choices, right? The pizza, the this, the that, the I don't care, I'm going to eat this anyway, you know, etc. Or even early on in your teens, like you didn't really pay those repercussions.
No. Yeah.
You didn't know.
Yeah.
But I call it like building the fire.
And
then moving to California, you lit the match and it was just poof.
Oh, it blew up.
Yeah. And so many people, I learned this a while back, is like people can live with low grade antibodies for their entire life.
Yeah.
And never go into a full-blown disease state. Because essentially they've never experienced a traumatic enough of event to light that fire. Or it's never basically like those stressors haven't compounded enough to raise antibodies high enough to then have this traumatic event kind of end cap that series of events to then explode into a full-blown disease state. But when you're dealing, something that I say a lot is like, it's not fair.
Yeah.
Right? Like life sucks. It's not fair.
Yeah, we know that.
We get dealt the cards that we get dealt.
Absolutely.
And you know what? Some people like have better genetics as far as like putting on muscle mass or staying lean. But that doesn't necessarily mean exactly like you said, is like, just because from the outside looking in, hey, I'm lean, I have muscles, I look normal, doesn't mean that I'm not dealing with gut-based anxiety, disease.
Yeah.
But it comes down to those daily consistent actions, saying no when we need to say no. And while it may look different for us, like fun may look different, it doesn't mean it has to take away our life. It just means we have to start to shift the identity away from those actions. Yeah,
especially shift your identity away from food, you know, especially if food is a huge part of your sickness or just your life. Like food for me has been a huge part of my 20s and on because of bodybuilding, right? You're so like, that's all bodybuilding really is. It's about food. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but I agree. Going to California, before California, I lived at home. So I went from living with my parents and sister to moving to California. I had never lived with a girlfriend. I never lived on my own. I just went from A to B, from a different state. So that really lit the flame. Like you said, I love how you explained all that.
Yeah. Let's start negatives of bodybuilding.
Oh my gosh. I think the more I compete, so I've competed 5 times. The more I compete, the more negatives I pile up, unfortunately. But somehow I always end up back on stage because it's kind of addicting in a weird way, especially when you are feeling good mentally, physically in the gym, right? So the negatives, I mean, body dysmorphia, especially as a female. You never think you look good enough, especially in prep. You could be 6 weeks out and be like, I am not lean enough. I do not look good.
Fat.
Yes. And then after prep, you look at those pictures, you're like, oh my gosh, I look so hot. I look so good. What was I thinking?
Like, this is perfect.
Exactly, right? But you're never enough in that moment.
Nope.
So, and then afterwards, post show can be a disaster. I've learned the hard way with my rebound more times than I can count. And that also messed with my thyroid too, you know? So body dysmorphia, the eating disorders, hiding in the pantry in the middle of the night when my parents are sleeping, eating peanut butter when I live with them because I didn't want them to see it, but I wanted peanut butter so bad, right? We want things we can't have when we can't have them, right? The eating disorder, the constant obsession of my macros, hitting my meals perfectly, timing my meals out. It's a very selfish sport. We know this, right? I think it's a very idolizing sport. We idolize the wrong things, right? And I mean, it's a very secular sport too. We're talking in terms of like, we're looking at these bodies and everybody's half naked on stage and I just feel like it can get very dark. The sport itself can get very dark. And my last prep, it was dark for me in terms of just focusing so much on me that I neglected my daughter a little more than I should. I was still mom, but I wasn't the mom I need to be.
Yeah.
Cared about me, cared about the next meal, the next workout, my next body work, appointment, cardio, sleep, repeat. That's how it was for 16 weeks straight. Because when I go in on a prep, I go all in.
There's just no other way.
There's not. And if you're going to compete, that's what you need to do, I think.
Yeah. My coach always says, he's like, handle yourself like a professional.
Yeah.
If you want to step on that stage, it doesn't matter if you're in prep. It doesn't matter if it's prepping to prep. It doesn't matter if it's your off season. Handle yourself like a professional.
Yeah.
And like, that's the difference maker.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like he won his pro card at the Amateur O.
Nice.
In open.
Nice.
Like, and that's
hard.
That's hard.
Yeah.
It's very hard.
Yeah.
And you know, for him, it was 17 years in the making to get there.
It's a lot of work.
You know, so it's and that was the biggest thing. Like, he competed the year before, and he kind of just like took the feedback, knew what needed to happen, and it's exactly that. It's handle yourself like a professional. Mm-hmm. From it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter if it's off season. You have to execute.
Yeah.
The good.
There is some good in bodybuilding. The discipline that you can get from or learn from bodybuilding, the consistency, obviously, it builds character. It's a you versus you sport at the end of the day. It's not you versus anyone else on stage, because you don't know who's going to show up until you get there. So you can't even compare yourself to anybody else. No. You just have to work on being the next best version of yourself. Yeah. How can I be better? So, I mean, discipline, consistency builds character. It gives you a better understanding of food, which is good. You can look at it in a good way and figure out, you know, what foods work well for your body. And there are times in prep where you can feel amazing. Yeah. I'd say during like my 16 week to like 12 week out, that kind of like in between phase, I felt so good. Mentally, I felt conditioned. I was strong. I felt healthy. I felt really good. If I could have stopped right in between that time and just maintained, I totally would have. But I was like, no, I have a goal. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, those are my takeaways from it. I'm sure there's others, but I think if you want to have a goal that's a little different, just focusing on you, and you want to focus on discipline, bodybuilding is a great sport, but there's a lot of things that you, especially women, need to know first that I wish I would have known before getting into the sport. Like PEDs. Okay. Like when I first started my first show, I never took anything. Mm-hmm. I was 20. I didn't even think about those things. Yeah. It wasn't until my second show when I was introduced by a boyfriend who was in the industry, handed me the only thing I've ever taken. I don't think I even told my parents at that time, or my coach, because I had a coach. Yeah. Okay. And he gave me Anavar. Yep. And I'm like, okay, like, I'm going to trust you. Like, he worked out, he's competed, he looked good. I'm like, all right, I trust you. As a boyfriend, right? I'm young. I'm like, I trust you. I love you. No, not really. Absolutely not. No. Yeah. But that's how girls can get, you know? And so I take it, and I took the second and third show. Then my coach found out. So then he kept me on it. After my next show, I took 25 milligrams for 20 weeks. Not knowing, not educated, not knowing that is absolutely absurd for a female. Not only the dosage, but the time frame. Are we joking? Yeah. So that was it. And then those 2 times, no one post-cycled me. No one did anything with me afterwards. They just dropped it. Labs, nothing. Nothing. Your typical coach, unfortunately, there's not a lot of good. There's your handful of good bodybuilding coaches, people who get it, people who care, right? Mm-hmm. And there's the ones that are like, I just want you to go get a trophy for me under my name and my business. I don't care what you do, how you feel after. See you later. Yep. So I dealt with that. And then again, for women too, understanding that the body dysmorphia is not going to leave you. No. You're going to see yourself so lean and loving the way you look, and your clothes fitting you differently, and you getting to wear different clothes, and the confidence you have. Especially with PEDs involved. Oh. The vascularity that comes into hardness, the hardness. It's not the cherry on top. I think we know that. It's not the cherry on top, but it can get addicting to know, okay, towards the end of my prep, when I start to take these, I feel good.
Yeah.
I feel strong. And I wasn't feeling strong a couple weeks ago because my food's getting low. I'm getting tired, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it can get addicting. But it's not the cherry on top. There's still work to be done. I think more people need to understand that too.
100%.
Yeah.
So many people don't understand like
No.
PDs, right? Like number one, less is more.
Absolutely.
Number two, like I have this conversation a lot, is there is no amount of drugs that can outdrug your poor lifestyle choices.
Yes. Yes.
Now, you can have elite genetics and
Mhm.
you can get away with
Mhm.
more than most. But the work is still the work. Like you still have to do it. You still have to execute. You still have to go to bed on time.
Yes.
You still have to get your cardio in, your
Mhm.
steps in.
Yep.
All of those things. Manage your nutrition, because especially for men, like when we start to push higher amounts of androgens, like
Mhm.
you have to worry about your blood pressure.
Yeah.
You have to worry about your lipid health,
Yeah.
depending on what compounds you're using.
Yep.
And so many other things.
Mhm.
Like
It's not candy.
It's not the cherry on top.
No.
It's a tool in the toolbox
Yes.
that needs to be understood and utilized when appropriate.
Exactly.
I've had the fortunate, I have only had a few competitors throughout the years, because I'm very adamant. I come from a background of being 400 pounds. I come from a background of like, I started diving into continuing ed and like the functional health space, like very early on in my career.
Yeah.
And I am the coach. Like I took a client from like a prep company and it took me 18 months to fix what they messed up.
Yeah.
And proudly, like at about the 24-month mark, put them on stage, won gold in like masters and took second in the open.
Nice.
And took second in the open. And then like, they were eating at 103 pounds, were eating 1,800 calories the week of show. Like
that's great.
Without PEDs.
Yeah. It can be done. It can be done.
And it's like, I'm the first person, like, I'm going to tell you, like, your body tells us when we pick the show, like, period.
Yeah, I like that.
And I am not the coach. Like a lot of these prep companies, like, I am not going to put you on stage 6 times in 3 months. Like, I just won't do it.
That's terrible. Yeah.
Like, I won't.
Yeah.
And it's all the time.
Yeah.
And it's so unhealthy. And like, the problem is some of these companies, they get a hold of people with elite genetics, like you were talking about, right? Like 25 milligrams daily for a woman for
20 weeks.
20 weeks.
Like, give me a break. That lit the fire too with my autoimmune. That does not help.
No, no, not at all. Shifting gears from bodybuilding.
Yeah.
How has health and fitness impacted your marriage?
Yeah. So health and fitness is a reason that I'm married to my husband. I found him on Instagram back in the day, slid in his DMs. I saw that he was a man of God. I'm like, okay, check. Love that. That's important. That's needed. That's, and then saw that he was competing and has been competing. He has been bodybuilding and started in bodybuilding since he was 16, 18, whenever you could start. The earliest you could start, he was there. Yeah, he's done so many shows. It's taken him years to finally turn pro. But it's what most of our date nights look like, and our first date, we met at a Starbucks, got a tea. I was in prep, not with him at the time. Not prepping with him at the time. And then we went down the street to LA Fitness and had our first workout together, our first date, first workout. And I remember, and I'll never forget this, I'm in prep, so I'm a little irritable, but I'm being nice because I've never met the guy. Literally our first time meeting. And he knows what he's getting himself into. I mean, you know what prep is, Yep. And we're doing chest. And I remember I'm down on like doing a dumbbell chest press and he can see my incline. I'm lean, like he can see my incline. And he just taps my incline like right here in my chest. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I'll never forget that. And I told him that too that day. I'm like, don't know why you were touching me, but he wasn't trying to be like inappropriate. He was just, like, that was him. And so health or nutrition, or not nutrition, but fitness and exercise and bodybuilding has made our marriage too. I've got to watch him prep so many times. He prepped while I was pregnant, which was kind of rude because I'm getting, a little bit heavier. He's getting leaner. Like, what the heck? We did a show together. We actually did 2 shows together. The first show we did together was great because we had no kid. We lived in California. We could just work out, eat, sleep, do our fasted cardio together, repeat, and it was fun. We could be irritable together. That prep was a good prep together.
Sure.
Yeah. The most recent one we did in 2023, I don't recommend with the kid. Yeah. And maybe just because he's a pro now, so his preps are more serious than mine. Like I didn't compete to turn pro. I again did it for a goal. That's why I don't think I'm going to do it again, because I'm not going to compete to turn pro. Why am I continuing to just bring my body down, right? And just continue to hurt myself basically for what, for who, So yeah, that's how we met, is through bodybuilding and working out. And it's been great. It's helped our marriage so much. So we communicate well together. We understand each other because we're into the same things. We meal prep together. It helps so much when you have someone in your life, especially your spouse, on the same page as you when it comes to health and fitness and meal prepping together, whether we eat the same foods or not. We still get it. Okay, I'm going to go to bed. Okay, cool. I get that. You need to get up. You need to recover. Okay, I'm going to be at the gym for an hour and a half, right? If you have that time during prep, maybe a little longer. Okay, I get it because you're in prep. Like, you got to do your things, or you're a little grumpy. I can deal with it because I get it. So yeah, it's taught us a lot for sure.
Yeah. Build a solid foundation.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're young. We've been married only 8 years, but we've gone through a lot, and he's dealt with my craziness, especially when we first started dating. I was not as crazy. And I say crazy because I wasn't as sick. Like, I wasn't dealing with my anxiety and my poor stomach issues and everything until we literally got married. And then he was like, oh my gosh, we're not like this. So he's dealt with me. He's great. He's an amazing man. So I'm super blessed. But yeah.
Circling back just really fast on the how did you notice, like, so you obviously got your diagnosis.
Yeah, I got a lot of blood work done,
blood work, supplementation to help aid. What did you notice, and maybe walk us through a little bit, like coming out of prep in 2023, how did that impact your Hashis? What did you notice kind of coming back, and like, what did you have to do to, you seem to be in a really good place now in 2025, right?
Kind of. So yeah,
okay.
So I wasn't feeling any of the symptoms. I was feeling on top of the world. You know how, well, you don't know yet, but you're going to know. Prep, throughout your prep, you're posting your pictures, you're looking good, you're feeling good. You're getting all these people who are like, you look so good, giving you all the glory, all the things, right? And you get on this high, right? Then you get on stage, you have that stage high, you're feeling good, you get off, and then you hit this low, like this dark prep low, where all of that is gone, right? And mentally, I was tired, but that's to be expected. I was lean and I was hungry. I really wanted food. So I started eating again. I started eating foods, not gluten or dairy, just eating more of what I was, And so I started kind of there in my stomach again. I'm like, oh gosh, like, what's going on? It wasn't until I had another kind of traumatic, not even necessarily traumatic, which is another heavy stressor in my life in July of 2024 happened.
Okay.
Unexpected, like completely unexpected. And that is kind of when I started to downward spiral again. I got lockjaw from stress. I don't do well with stress. Like, as you can tell, like, I just don't do well with stress. And growing up, super blessed to not really have any stress. Yeah. So now that I'm an adult, I'm dealing with it, but I don't handle it very well, or at least my body doesn't, So started in July, and then I started getting, I have this spot on my face. It's covered up with makeup right now, but it's like a flare-up spot. And I had it 2 years ago when I was dealing with a flare-up.
Sure.
And it's back again. So that spot, I could tell, okay, like, this is back. My anxiety's back. Waking up with a racing heart again. My high cortisol is back. Like, because of this event that happened in July. Yeah. So as of recent, I'm not even kidding. As of like 2 weeks ago, I started to finally feel good. If I was feeling how I was feeling 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, I would not be on this podcast. I would not be able to drive here right now. That's how mentally debilitating it is. It's insane. It's really sad. It sucks because it really can stall your life. But But yeah, I kind of forgot the question you asked.
That's great. And I think to your point, like bodybuilding in itself is a massive stress.
Huge stress. Yeah.
And when you're dealing with an autoimmune condition,
Mm-hmm.
you are limited because the condition in itself is a stress on the body,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
yeah.
in the way I've explained this, the way it was explained to me is like you have basically a 5-gallon bucket
Mm-hmm.
of stress.
Yeah.
And once you reach your limit, it's going to pour over.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we start to notice those negative consequences.
Yeah.
And you know, now you are a wife, a mom, a business owner.
Yeah.
All of these things, right? On top of it, you decided to prep. You did that. You made it through.
Yeah.
You got there. You did the show. You did the thing.
Yeah.
And then you're coming out of it. And now there's new stressors
Yeah.
of the rebound,
Yeah.
traumatic event,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Because again, we've kind of almost built this fire again.
Absolutely.
Traumatic event,
Yes.
lights the
Boom.
fire,
Mm-hmm.
and here we are.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you're not incorporating like medication to like potentially like
It could be better if
you've nailed the lifestyle.
Yes.
Medication could potentially be
Yes.
an intervention
Yes.
that could alleviate some of that
Yeah.
and lessen potentially
Yeah.
like downward spirals into these like really like rough places,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I really resonate with like, you know, it's so hard to explain to someone like the anxiety that comes from it. The random racing heart,
Yes.
the
sweaty armpits, the clammy hand, all the things.
loss of
Yeah.
like joy,
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
like feeling like especially like back home. So I'm from Minnesota,
Oh, nice.
and within the first 3 years of having a thyroid issue, 2018 into 2019, the winter was one of the worst winters like on record. We had schools canceled 6 times, and back home in Minnesota, school doesn't get canceled for literally anything.
Jeez, yeah.
It's canceled for 3 blizzards and canceled 3 times because it was 45 below zero air temperature.
Get me out of there.
Not see sunlight for like a month. So crippling anxiety and disease.
No. And
zero joy.
Yeah.
Stack on top.
Hot mess. No way. That gives me anxiety thinking about that because I don't know about you, but during the winter is when I notice the flare-ups and I don't feel the best. That's for me. My body does not function. And we live in Arizona. Our winters, it's 80 degrees out today.
Yeah.
Like that's amazing. But the cold for me just doesn't do it. It doesn't work for me.
As a woman of faith, have you ever fallen away?
Absolutely. Growing up, my parents always took us to church, went to Bible studies, went to youth groups, did the thing, read the word, had great friends that we got to, you know, do youth group events with together. I've always believed in Jesus, but there's a difference between believing and walking with him.
100%.
Right? And actually obeying what he says.
Yeah.
So I've definitely fallen to, yes, I believe in you, but I'm not really going to obey right now. Like, life's good.
I'm going to do me.
Yeah. Because you can get so caught up in that, especially in today's day and age, thinking you have all the strength and power. You got it. You don't need anyone else, nothing else. But that's wrong. You do need Jesus all the time, on the good days, the bad days, and in between.
Which brings up my next question. So I think it's really easy to ask, how do you lean on God in the bad times? But my question for you, and this is something that I think a lot of us as Christians struggle with, how do you lean on God in the good times? How do you not fall away?
This is something that I've been really working on.
Yeah.
Because I think too, one thing recently is any glory that I would get, I want that to be deflected and pointed to God, because he's the reason that I have my businesses I have the clientele that I have the family, the house. He is the reason. Yep. So in the good times, continue to do what I do in the bad times, is read the word, be disciplined. It takes a discipline to open the Bible and read the Bible and to praise him and to worship him and to pray continuously. You know, so in any way, shape, or form, I'm listening to some sort of worship music. Recently, I've been putting it in my AirPods in the morning, first thing I listen to. And it's amazing. In my car, as much as I can, right? Sometimes I get in different moods when I'm in the gym. You know, I'm going to switch up the music a little bit. But yeah, so in the good times, it needs to look, I think the same as the bad times. It's just easier to fall away when you feel good, when your health is on point, when finances are good, when your marriage is good, right? Of course, we don't think about him as much. And that makes him sad because he is right here, right now, right? He's always there with us, but we don't lean on him in the good times as much as we should. So that's something I'm definitely working on. And my husband is such a great example. He's again, a great man of God, and he always is reading the word to me, praying with me, for me. I mean, teaching me. He knows so much. He's read the Bible multiple times. So I learn from him all the time. Of course, he likes to bring up some Bible verses sometimes to throw at me if I don't obey correctly. And I'm like, you're correct, but yes, you're correct. You know how that goes. So yeah, I'd say lean on him the same way, in the good times of your life, the good seasons, as you would the bad.
It's funny that you said that, because someone sent me something this morning or last night, an interview with Charlie Kirk's wife. And she was asked a question along the lines of, obeying your husband, and, something that she brought up, and I'll be totally transparent. Like, I know these verses vaguely.
Me too, honestly.
But there is, a verse that speaks about, a wife obeying her husband in obeying the leadership, right? And the next verse that follows is the example for men. It's not one-sided.
No,
like when
not
you
at
look
all.
at the Bible and you look at traditional marriage, it's not one-sided.
No.
It's not wife does anything the man says, period, end of story. It's a equal partnership, and to be equally yoked in God and faith and following him and putting him as number one. And so, it's, I guess, how does that show up for you, like in your marriage, as far as following his leadership, but also is like, it sounds like he does a really great job of, loving you as Christ loves the church and putting God as number one and learning through those examples.
He does. I mean, if I could copy and paste him for other women, I would, because he is such a great example of a true man of God. And I can be better. I know I can be better, right? I'm sure we all can be a little better. But me, I'm a little more on the selfish side, which I know that. And I have a little bit of a hard heart in some areas. When sometimes I hear the word obey, I think it's because what I hear in today's society. Sometimes I'm like, obey you? Like, I don't know. I just get a little like, the enemy's just like, no, like, you don't need to do that. But Jesus is like, no, like, that's what I'm telling you to do. That's the word, right? Like, that's the right thing to do. He does, what he's supposed to do. You do what you're supposed to do. And it's an equal partnership. So sometimes I do struggle with saying yes to certain things I know I should say yes to, and not just thinking about me. So that's something I'm continuing to work on. And I don't really know where that stems from. It's just an internal me thing I have to work on.
Sure.
So, but he's, again, I would like to copy and paste him for other women.
Family.
Yeah.
Operating a business, because so you're a coach, but you also operate another. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like two different businesses.
Yeah, two different businesses.
Operating a business with your mom.
Oh my gosh, it's a dream. My mom and I are best friends. Like, obviously, she raised me as mom.
Yeah.
She raised me well.
Yeah.
Her and I are best friends. Yeah. And we've always wanted to do something together. She's very into nutrition and fitness. She's a nutrition coach, and we've always wanted to do something together. And we're like, what should we do together? Like, we want to stay in our lane. It needs to make sense for us. And then one day we were in my kitchen, and we put together a little like concoction, and we came up with the Perfect Pancake.
Yeah.
And the Perfect Pancake is a 4-ingredient, high protein pancake.
Awesome.
And it was called Health Babe Cake because my Instagram handle is the Health Babe. So I was like, let's just throw that on there and just see what happens.
Yeah.
We rebranded last year to the Perfect Pancake.
Okay.
And it's been amazing. We work so well together because we have different strengths and weaknesses. So we feed off each other perfectly. She does all the bookwork and the boring things.
Yeah.
And I'm more like the social media. And I talk a little bit better than she does. So I can talk to more customers and explain things to people and be places like this. And it's a lot of fun. So I'm excited for the future of the Perfect Pancake. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. It's a dream. It's definitely a God thing. I mean, just her and I right now, We would love to eventually, get some employees and get into a warehouse. There's lots of work to be done, but there's so many steps.
Yeah.
So many steps. But for now, it's amazing.
How old is your mom?
Did you see a picture of her?
Yeah.
Yeah. She
Ageless wonder.
She ages like fine wine. She just turned, and mom's going to listen to this. I know. And I think I forgot. I think 55, 54. One of those two. I know. The genes. That's why my husband married me. He looked at my mom and said, all right, she's good.
That's insane.
I know. We get that all the time.
Because honestly, before I looked more, I was like, oh, that's her sister.
We
that's
get
her
that.
older sister.
And then when we tell people that she's a grandma to 2, because my sister has a son, people freak out. They're like, we don't believe you. I go, she eats a lot of pancakes. She eats a perfect pancake every day. That's what keeps her young. So get on that, people.
It's Perfect Pancake. It's a fountain of youth.
Yeah, exactly.
So final question. I don't really ever send this one out. Is so obviously Intentional Health for Women podcast.
Yeah.
In this season of your life, how are you living intentionally in this coming season of your life?
Living intentionally by being more intentionally with working out, or what elaborate a little bit more for me.
And it can really be anything. How are you going to step into 2025 with intention, and what does that look like? Whether it be training, for you kind of mentioned, hey, I'm not going to compete in bodybuilding anymore. So maybe what does that look like? Living intently with intent in your health and fitness, but no longer with that goal. Is there a different goal? Do you want to move on to an endurance sport? Faith, marriage.
Yeah. So when it comes to, I guess, working out and stuff, I can't compete again. I know it's not good for me.
Yeah.
So I have to get that goal and that thought out of my head and just be healthy. Truly be healthy. Again, people looking at me walking down the street probably assume I'm super healthy, but on the inside, I struggle, right? I struggle. So people need to remember that too, that just because someone looks a certain way does not mean they are doing well mentally or even physically. So being very intentional with my workouts, not being as intense. I can be a very intense person. Training 6 days a week for what? I don't need to do that. It's just what I've done. So that's what I know. Yeah. So scaling back a little bit more, with that, being intentional, continuing to be intentional with nutrition. I'm very diligent and disciplined with my nutrition, but I choose to because I want to feel good. Yeah. That's what's important to me. That's why I have no problem saying no. Right. So I have no problem not eating Christmas dinner and bringing my own meal because it's not going to make me feel good the next day. And I think about the future me, tomorrow. How am I going to feel tomorrow? That is something that I think more women need to think about too when it comes to their goals is, okay, in this moment, you might want the Oreos or you might want the third alcoholic drink, but how are you going to feel tomorrow? Is that going to help you move forward for tomorrow and get you up for your workout and help you stay consistent? So very intentional with nutrition, and then shift my focus more on my coaching business. Really dive in. Go ahead.
The nutrition piece. Yeah. Something I want to highlight.
Yeah.
Because you are a mom is I think something that I've had a lot of conversations about over the years is I don't want to be so short with my kids anymore. Mm-hmm. I don't think women understand sometimes is how much your nutritional choices impact your emotions, attitude, your brain.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, all of those things are going to impact quality of sleep.
Yeah. Yep.
How you feel.
Yep.
And therefore how you show up for those kiddos. Absolutely. And your attention span and ability to have bandwidth.
Yeah, I agree. I think 2025, more than ever, myself, along with a lot of other moms and women that feel like working out is selfish, need to flip the switch and say, no, me not showing up as my best self and my being the best mom, wife, coworker, whatever it is that you are, is more selfish. Because I know that when I'm in my peak of Hashi's flare up, I'm not a good mom. No. I am so short. I do not feel good. I do not want to play. I do not want to go anywhere. And Avery can kind of tell. She's 6. She's kind of aware. Okay, what's that? She says, what the heck is wrong with you? And I'm like, I wish I could really explain it to you, but you don't get it, right? Yeah. And so, but then she can tell when I'm my giggly, happy, fun, energized self. So yeah, I 100% agree that nutrition choices make all the difference. And again, it's okay to say no and to show your kids, lead by example and show them that, hey, I'm eating this protein and these vegetables. It's making me strong. It makes me feel good. Avery's favorite meal is beef and rice.
Yeah.
Beef and rice. I mean, And we let her have, kid things here and there, but we're very like aware, and I want her to feel good. I don't want her to grow up and get, any sort of autoimmune or deal with what I'm dealing with. Growing up, my parents didn't know as much, especially my mom, about nutrition as she does now.
Yeah.
Does she probably regret giving us some of the stuff continuously and allowing us to eat certain food? Yeah, probably. I would imagine. So now for me, I'm even more intentional with all that with Avery. And again, at school, I can't always control things, and that's okay. And she needs to have that balance and grow up with a healthy relationship with food too. But yeah,
100%.
Moms need to focus on nutrition.
Faith in marriage intent in 2025.
Yeah. So marriage intent is to just continue to grow stronger and get closer. And that's going to happen with stronger faith with both of us. So something that Elias and I both really want to focus on is to be able to wake up in the morning, which he needs to get up earlier. I get up super early and show up at the table, open up our Bibles together, have a little coffee, quiet Bible time together. We pray a lot together already, but there's more that we could do. So just being intentional. We go to church every Sunday. We've gone to our church for 6 years. We go to Generation Church. We absolutely love it. Everything about it. Continuing to pray for each other. And again, with marriage, just continue to just get closer. And that can happen by me tapping into God's word even more, obeying more, because I can solve a lot of problems in a lot of areas.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's been an absolute honor.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Where can we find you?
You can find me on social media on Instagram. My Instagram handle is thehealthbabe_. Okay. I'm on Facebook as Carly Wilsey. I don't really show up there that much. Instagram is my jam. And then if you want to follow my Perfect Pancake page, you can follow the Perfect Pancake _ on Instagram as well. We also have a website where you can go check out more about the Perfect Pancake and place your orders if you want to.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. If this episode brought you value, please subscribe, share with a friend, and leave us a review. We are not normal. We are intentional.